right to life and liberty, right to privacy, right to movement, right to nationality, right to marriage, right to own property on one's name, equality before law, and equal protection of law. There are still so many rights which are guaranteed under this Universal Declaration of Human Rights by Article 3 to 21. Let us discuss very briefly these political rights. Right to life and liberty. One person is entitled or having right to live his life in his own way. The same right is reflected in our constitution. Friends, mostly all the human rights are reflected in our constitution under part 3 and part 4, which are the fundamental rights and the directive principles of state policy. Right to live as per one's own wish is called civil and political rights as per the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Right to liberty. Liberty means all the personal liberties. You can speak whatever you want, but with the limitations prescribed by the local laws. Right to express your feelings. You are entitled or you are having right, you are enjoying the right to express your feelings. But the limitation it must not be the defamatory statements for others. અધરવાઇઝ જો આપણે કાંઈ પણ આપણી ફિલિંગ એક્સપ્રેસ કરવી હોય અને એનાથી જો બીજાને નુકસાન થાય તો ઇટ વિલ બી કન્સિડર એઝ ધ ઓફેન્સ અંડર ઇન્ડિયન પીનલ કોડ. એન્ડ ધ સેકન્ડ right to privacy. This right to privacy, my friend, normally are enjoyed by the celebrities of the society. If, for example, in our family, if outsider is interfering, we will definitely not like that interference. The same is with the life of celebrities. If as and when, now and then, media is interfering in their lives, the very recent instance that Aishwarya Rai Bachchan gave a birth of a child, what is the gender of that child? That is called right to privacy. If you are not ready to disclose your personal matter, you can claim this right. How will you claim? You will just inform the media. Do not come to me, do not ask me about my personal life. So it is called right to privacy. Industrialists, social workers, film stars, these celebrities are normally claiming right to privacy. Right to privacy also include not to disclose your physical or medical reports to anybody. So if any laboratory disclosing your personal details of the reports carried out by that laboratory and it is disclosing it to the another third party, you can claim legally under the heading of civil and political rights as your right to privacy. Right to marriage. My friend, to get married is also the fundamental and the human right. It depends upon the likes of a person to choose the person who would be his or her life partner. Right to start family. The famous case of X versus Y hospital relating to right to marriage is considered as the base case for right to marriage. Whereas Mr. X's report relating to AIDS was disclosed by the hospital to the girl family, and due to that reports the marriage would not able to carried out. So Mr. X filed a complaint and then the decision came that this is the infringement of fundamental right. Here it is international level, so we are considering it that if right to marriage is also attached with right to privacy. Right to movement. You are having right to move anywhere in your state. If you want to go abroad, after taking the permission of that foreign state, you are able to go anywhere in that state. These are called political and civil rights, which are the part of the United Nations Declaration. This third part, which starts from Article 22 to Article 27, which contains economic and social rights. If you look at to the side, you will find that economic and social rights includes the right to have proper food, right to have proper clothes, right to have proper shelter is called your right to economic, social and cultural rights. These cultural, economic and social rights are guaranteed by Universal Declaration, which also includes right to work as per your choice. If you are at work, right to rest and leisure, right of standard living. Friends, if you are having certain life standard, to maintain that life standard, you are entitled legally. Of course, to maintain, you cannot commit any kind of action which is against the law, but you are entitled to maintain your living standard. After that, right to education. Without education, you cannot enjoy any kind of right. Right to education is also considered as right to life and personal liberty if we discuss it with reference to Indian Constitution. So these are called economic and social cultural rights. Right to follow any culture, any religion, right to take part in the scientific development, right to take part in development of culture. These are called cultural rights. Now, after coming into force this Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the need for some special provisions for all these 5 kinds of rights, namely civil rights, political rights, economic rights, social rights and cultural rights, were raised by the different member states. They were demanding separate declaration on these 5 headings. My friends, I discussed that from 1946 to 1948, the declaration took time for its implication. When this draft declaration was sent to the different governments, 3 main states recommended some situations or some suggestions. These 3 main states were Australia, Soviet Union and the third was Yugoslavia. These 3 states recommended the situation or the covenant which contains only economic, social and cultural right and separately civil and political rights. So, on receiving the recommendations from the member state, United Nations considered it and also gave assurance to the member states that we are keeping your suggestions with us and in very near future we would like to enact the separate declaration or covenant regarding these 5 headings. Now, till this point we are aware, or I have used the word declaration. The new word came covenant. Covenant, and then there is another word also which is known as convention. Covenant means when United Nations Organization or its General Assembly itself draft its own declaration on one particular point, it is called covenant. Of course, the recommendations are always been made by the member state, and on that suggestions or recommendations, General Assembly is enacting the whole bunch of regulations. Because General Assembly itself is enacting, it is called covenant. And when the private parties or 2, 3 or more states are coming into an agreement, they are called convention, agreement, or if they are very lower in numbers, it is called treaty. So, in this covenant, General Assembly assured to draft this covenant under two different headings. The procedure started from the year 1952. In draft committee, Economic Social Council suggested the recommendations to General Assembly, and General Assembly formed the drafting committee for this covenant on civil and political rights. Friends, after drafting the declaration with keeping the view in mind which were given by Australia, Soviet Union and Yugoslavia, the enactment was made separately under two different headings. They are civil and political rights, and the second convention was the economic, social and cultural rights. If you go through the next slide, you will come to know that the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights came into force in 1966, and on the same year, International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights also came into force in the year 1966. But it came into force in the year 1976. The reason is, when you want to implicate the covenant, it requires 35 ratifications from the member state. It took 10 years to acquire these number of ratification, and during 2006 both the convention respectively having 106 member states with it, and with Economic, Social and Cultural Convention it is having 105 ratification till the year of 2006. Now let us discuss how civil and political rights are reflected under our constitution. Our constitution mostly covers all the human rights, whether they are declared under the separate declaration as Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or they are covered by this special covenant like civil, political, economic, social or cultural rights. If you go through the next slide, you can see that Article 8 of Convention says that no one shall be required to perform forced or compulsory labor. Means prohibition on compulsory labor is also the part of our Indian Constitution. Traffic in human beings and beggar and other similar forms of forced labor are prohibited through Article 23. The provisions of covenant says, as per Article 14, that all the persons are equal before the courts and tribunals, which is reflected in the same number with the Indian Constitution, that no state shall the state shall not deny to any person equality before the law or equal protection of law within the territory of India. Again the restriction is there, the territory must be Indian territory. Again, Article 26 of the Covenant prescribes that prohibition of discrimination and person are entitled to equal protection of law. Because you belong to some caste or religion or creed, or you are having the different color of your skin, you are not available with the rights, it is wrong. It is given or prescribed under Article 27 in the covenant, and the same is reflected under Article 15, which says that prohibition of discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. So, irrespective of anything, if you are born in India, you are the citizen of India, you are entitled to have these basic minimum rights known as fundamental rights. The next rights which are reflected are, as per the covenant, Article 19 to 21, freedom of speech and expression, right for peaceful assembly, right of freedom of association, right to move freely within the territory of a state are guaranteed by this article. Article 19 deals with these kind of personal liberty. The next which are guaranteed by the covenants are: if the person is held guilty, the principle of double jeopardy applies. The same is reflected under Article 20 of Indian Constitution. The person cannot be punished for the same offence twice. The next is: if you are arrested, then you must have the right to know about the reasons of your arrest. The Article 21 of the Constitution says that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law, which we have discussed under the heading of United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. The last but not the least, friends, there is the list will go and gone if I take each and every right. But to be very precise, Article 9 as per your slide, which says that everyone has the right to liberty and security of a person. Arbitrary arrest or detention is prohibited by this provision. The same is reflected under Article 22, which protects the person against arrest and detention in certain cases. So friends, these are the least covered rights which are reflected in our Constitution. I have tried to compare and cover all the points within my session, and if time will permits, we will discuss it in another lecture, the economic, social and cultural rights, how they are reflected and how they came in force. Friends, I hope you enjoyed the lecture of both of us, R.V. Mehta sir and mine also, that we have tried to clear your concept of human rights and international level of human rights. Thank you friends. Have a good day.